This is an exclusive presentation of WOWO 1190 AM and 107.5 FM, Unholstered.
Here we go. We are back with another episode of Unholstered. My name is Kayla Blakesley. I am one of your hosts here on Unholstered. If this is your first time tuning in or you've never heard of this program is all about the local media, which is me, teaming up with our local police department here in the city of Fort Wayne to share and tell all of the stories about our men and women in blue and just law enforcement in general that don't often get told. And my co-host is a captain with the Fort Wayne Police Department.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sophia Rosales-Scatina. I'm a captain with the Fort Wayne Police Department, and welcome to the show Unholstered.
So, Sophia, today's topic, at least here in Fort Wayne, I mean, it's not an exclusive topic to Fort Wayne, but it's a big one ongoing right now here in our neck of the woods. It's all about school safety zones and traffic and crosswalks, particularly outside of schools. And I know it's not just an issue, like I said, for Fort Wayne. It spreads all across the country, I'm sure. But before we kind of get into the nitty-gritty of that, I do want to talk about a text that came in on our text back line. It's a question specifically for this show, and I'm hoping that you can answer it because I can't answer it. I don't know the answer to this question, but hopefully you can help us out. It says, "Hey, KB and Sophia, I have a question. Yesterday, Wayne TV, which is a local news outlet here, says yesterday Wayne TV reported that Fort Wayne police responded to a situation in rural Churubusco. Does the city of Fort Wayne absorb the cost of responding to other cities, or does Fort Wayne get to send a bill to the city of Churubusco?" I thought that was actually a really good question, and I don't know the answer.
It is a good question, and I think something that I'm going to happily explain. It's not like we send like an invoice of the time logged for
here
our people.
Here are our services, yeah.
Yeah, here are the services rendered. Here's your invoice. We have what we call mutual agreement compacts that we do with surrounding areas around here because we know that these more rural communities like Whitley, like Wells, like Noble County don't have the tactical teams. They don't have the expertise of their own negotiating team or drone team. And we know that. We know as a larger department, it is part of our duty and responsibility to take care of the smaller areas around here. Now, I know that people are always worried about money, and so are we, because these things can come at a great cost. But we do have these mutual aid compacts drawn up. And while we don't send invoices, we do exchange services, sometimes product.
Okay.
So they may give us, for training purposes, items, or they may come here and teach. They may have an instructor in a specialized course that may come here and teach. But our teams are utilized throughout the state. Our EOD bomb squad is a northeast regional team. So they go out all over the state of Indiana and the northeast area, and sometimes a little farther than that, depending on the situation. Our bomb dogs are taken down to Indianapolis. Sometimes I clear Lucas Oil Stadium. So we all kind of work together to make this entire state safe. Mm-hmm. And I would caution people not to get into this tit for tat kind of thing back and forth. Well, you owe us this and you owe us that, because in the grand scheme of things, we all want to be safe no matter where we travel. And I know a lot of Fort Wayne people go to Churubusco, and if we can make that safer for them by helping that smaller department, we're going to do that.
Yeah, I didn't realize these agreements were in place. I didn't know it operated like that, but it makes sense because at the end of the day, we all have that common goal. We all want to be safe no matter where we travel.
And as officers, we want to make sure that these come, despite what people may think, to a peaceful resolve. And I think utilizing specialized people who are experts in their craft help ensure that. And that's what happened in this one. This was actually I was duty chief this week, and still am till Friday.
For this call in Churubusco?
For this call in Churubusco. So I was the one that had to make the decision, are we going to go out there in the first place? And then how that whole thing ran. So working with Whitley County, which was a pleasure because they were very cooperative, and we worked really well together. But I was in charge of our teams as we were out there. So
okay, so is that nerve-wracking for you? Or that's not really your everyday job?
It's not my everyday job, but it's something that comes along with being in the upper command. You assume duty chief responsibilities, so you go out to all call-outs, no matter what they are, with their homicides, if they're officer-involved shootings, and you're responsible for the scene and making sure that everything that gets done needs to be done, or everything that needs to be done gets done. I'm well versed in the realm of negotiations and barricades and suicidal, which is what it was because I was a hostage negotiator for 16 years. So I'm all the nuances of when do you go in and when do you wait? When is it conducive to keep talking? When do you just got to cut it? Those are all things that I guess are second nature to me. So while it is a little nerve-wracking because you've got all this responsibility, because ultimately it's my decision and my call, and it's going to be my butt up on the stand if something goes wrong. But I feel very comfortable with that, although I still will say that it's a little nerve-wracking at times. But I am so confident in the skills that our teams have that it's amazing to sit there on the other side now and watch them work. Yeah. It's just amazing.
It's probably very helpful, though, that you've been on both sides. It probably is what makes you so good at your job.
Yeah, and I think in the team leaders, I've worked with them for so many years, so there's a really good amount of respect for ideas, and communication flows very freely between all of us, and I think that really helps.
Are you able to tell us with the situation in Cherubusco, did everything get resolved safely, successfully? I don't know how necessarily in this case how you would define success.
I would define success in this case as a peaceful surrender.
Okay,
which
it was a peaceful surrender. Okay.
Yes, it was. There was gas used, but he did come out. There was no injury to him or our officers, and I'll count that as a good day. And he got to the hospital where he needs to be.
Geez, you walk in here. I had no idea that just was a random text. You happen to be the one in charge. Holy smokes, Sophia.
Yeah, it all is. There's a reason why I'm here on this day, right?
I'm glad I don't have your job. Okay, well, kind of not really a good segue here, but our actual topic at hand, like I kind of mentioned, school safety zones. And the reason this one's being brought up is because another child was struck by a vehicle walking to school just outside Black Hawk Middle School. And I say another child because we just had this same kind of incident just a couple of months ago, right out in front of Black Hawk Middle School. Yeah. In the case of this boy, I believe both of his legs were broken. He is okay, going to make a full recovery, so I do want to throw that out there. But yet we still seem to have this issue. And if you're familiar with the area or with Fort Wayne, that's right along East State Boulevard there. But this has been a spot, obviously, where kiddos have been struck before. And again, I know this is not an issue exclusive to Fort Wayne by any means. There are lots of,
unfortunately,
towns, cities, counties, dealing with it. And at this particular location, there is a crossing guard, no?
There is, yes.
So what, why is this happening, I guess? It's frustrating, obviously, because it's our kiddos.
It's extremely frustrating. And for parents, it's scary, right? Because we send our kids out every day to walk to school, and, we bus drivers are in limited supply, so they've had to, cut some of the services. So now more kids are walking. But honestly, it's going to come down, and this is the case over and over again, is poor driving, distracted driving, speeding, people in a hurry, not paying attention, doing other things while they should be concentrating on driving, and especially around school zones. We've just become a society where I'll say that we've been very selfish drivers. Mm-hmm. And I will say this as full confession, I can be that way too. Because sometimes I get in a hurry and I'm not paying attention because I've got 12 other things on my mind, and I've got kids talking at me in the car, and
you're thinking about dinner and picking up dry cleaning. Oh, I got to stop at the store first.
I've got so much to do, and I'm trying to get it done, and I've got limited amount of time, and my time is very precious because I've got so much on my plate, and bam, here I am, either just
driving a little fast,
probably driving a little fast, or and my kids, they see this, and they're newer drivers. My son just got his permit, so he's getting ready to drive. My daughter's been driving about a year, and I'm like, do not drive like mom. Mom's been driving for a long time, so you need to drive a little bit better than me. I'll say that. And they laugh.
So, okay. So we feel like probably the majority then of the problem, if you will, is the driver then. I mean, I will say in the case of this story with this young boy, the driver did say, just kind of looked down and looked up and was going fast enough. There wasn't enough time to stop, which to me, I mean, that should be a red flag anyway. If you're going through a school zone, come on.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you got to take the speed down anyway.
Yeah. There's been a lot of accidents I've worked where people say they look down, and I'm not saying in this case, but a lot of those I know in the back of my mind that's code for I was on my phone.
Mm-hmm. I was texting.
I was doing something I wasn't supposed to be doing, but I'm not going to admit to it.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. And even now, we've had this law for a year now, at least, the hands-free law. And, I drive my personal car a lot just because of my kids and doing stuff. But I see people all the time on their phone.
I do too. Yep.
All the time, texting, talking, and all of it's illegal.
Yep.
If I'm in my squad car, I can pull them over. But obviously, every time I see people doing that, I'm normally not in my squad car.
It's one of those things where, I'll be honest, I didn't really have a real appreciation for it either. And not even, like prior to the law taking effect here in Indiana, for a hot second, I worked for the Ohio Department of Transportation for about a year. It would have been back in like 2016, 2017. But I got to actually be out in those work zones, in those construction zones. And it was there when I suddenly had a real appreciation for, okay, distracted driving is real. I cannot do it. Speeding through work zones is real. I'm never going to do it. Yeah. When you're standing out there and you feel a car buzzing by you at 70 miles per hour, that's 6 inches from your body. It really did change my perspective when it came to driving distracted. And because I'll be the first to admit, I've absolutely been on my cell phone while driving prior to,
Oh, yeah, me too. It wasn't law then.
Right.
I have a magnetic system now and, the Bluetooth and that kind of stuff.
Well, I can tell you I can almost remember the day. And I can remember what I was wearing when I actually had this kind of aha moment of how serious this really is. That I made it my, own personal goal right then and there. I'm never going to be on my cell phone again. I'm never going to speed through a work zone again. People's lives are way too valuable just because I'm running 5 minutes late. Yeah. So I resolved back then this was not going to be something that I do. Now, obviously, the law passed in Indiana a year ago. No one should be doing it.
Right.
But yet.
So many people are.
And I'll be honest, I still my car probably like most has the GPS system in it. So I can just kind of tap on the screen. But even that I'd consider distracted driving. Trying to check down on my GPS.
Yeah.
Tapping in coordinates, which I try to do before I even start my car.
My car won't even let you do it while you're driving.
Correct. Mine won't either. Yeah.
It's that. But normally I just do it on my phone before I even set out. And I put my phone up and it goes through my Bluetooth because sometimes the car one isn't updated correctly or something.
Yep.
But I think the distracted driving is such a huge issue because we're kind of like a I want it now kind of society, give me my text now. What did they say? And what am I going to say?
I need to know right now.
I need to know right now. What did we do 10 years ago? When
live simpler, easy lives, Sophia.
Big deal, yeah.
What about though? But what about signage or more visibility? Are those potential solutions? I know obviously it is going to come back to some personal responsibility for the drivers.
Yeah. First and foremost, it's always personal responsibility.
Yeah.
There are laws on the books. You should be following those laws. I get it. Sometimes, everybody speeds a little bit. Everybody does this or that. And sometimes, you grab your phone real quick. Oh, I forgot. It's because it's so natural. Just pick up your phone when it rings, right? In the phone. But I'm very careful not to do that, especially in my squad car because I know people are watching me.
Oh,
I know they're watching me.
Girl. You can't do that. Someone will whip their cell phone up in the car beside you.
It's like going through that yellow light. Like, okay, do I stop? Do I go? And people get so freaked out.
I never thought about that. That would be the worst.
But I don't want to slam on the brakes and then cause someone to hit me in the back. So he's like, and then I go through this light and people are like, oh, you ran that? I'm like, no, I didn't really. I was stuck in between. And,
in that weird place.
In that weird place. And I know everybody gets there because I see people freaking out.
Yep. Do I stop? Do I go? Do I stop?
Yeah, because I'm right behind them.
At least you know what, Sophia? I actually take comfort though with that in knowing someone like you driving your squad car goes through the same.
I go through the same thing.
Road anxiety that I do.
Not because I think I'm going to get a ticket, because I think someone's going to get mad, and I'm like, I don't want to disappoint people.
Yep.
So we've just had an increase overall in just bad driving around here, and I don't know what I'll equate that to, other than we're just in a hurry all the time.
Are you able to? I know you're our stats gal, and you always bring in your loads of paperwork with you, but are you able to see you increased incidents with drivers or driving around Fort Wayne?
We've seen a lot more fatals. Last year, we're in 2021, we had 31, which was a record for us. We've never had that many. In 2020, we had 18. Now, granted, we were in lockdown and probably not a lot of people on the road, but just prior to the COVID lockdown in 2019, we had 22.
Okay.
So it's significantly higher.
Are a lot of those due to, are you able to have the why, I guess? Is it drinking and driving an issue or speeding? Are you able to?
Drinking and driving stats are down for 2021 compared to 2020, which is odd because there was less people on the road, but more people
Drinking.
drunk driving.
Huh.
So, it's kind of weird. I mean, this whole COVID time
It
period.
is-
is
it is
just,
probably
it's just
some
weird.
weird- it
And I
is
think
hard
it
to look at
throws
the
stats
data.
off for us that we
Yeah.
normally would track. But even so, we had drunk driving impaired task force out for 2020 numbers, and we did 1,612 in 2020 citations and warnings, and then we had 1,400 in 2021. So 200 more in 2020 than 2021. So it's just a little different, but you can find all these stats. Our 2021 year-end report is out, fwpd.org. You can go hit year-end reports, and it gives you all the stats from everything we keep track of in that book, and it's easily accessed on the computer.
But when it comes to, I'm really grasping, you can tell, because it is a frustrating issue, particularly these school safety zones. When it comes to solutions, it's like I'm trying to find, again, yes, first and foremost, personal responsibility, you are 100% correct, is on the driver.
Yeah.
But are there other things, whether it's the Fort Wayne Police Department or even the school district, are there other things that could be done to try and keep this from happening?
Well, I really like the lighted crosswalk areas to make drivers really aware, especially when it comes to rainy and dark
And
days.
foggy. I mean, fog is such an
Yes.
issue, at least around here. I can't speak for other areas.
Yeah,
but
and visibility is so much lessened with rain and the darkness. Even I have a hard time driving. You can't see signage, you can't see, but if you see a flashing light, you're coming up to a school safety zone. And I don't know why it isn't around every school in Fort Wayne, especially, I'm looking down on Jefferson and Washington. I was Washington Elementary.
Yep.
It's heavily traveled, especially in the morning, because it's the major thoroughfare to downtown. But the school sits right between two of the largest traveled roads, but there is no lighting. There's painted crosswalk and there's a couple signs, but that should be highly visible.
Is there a cross
in my
guard there?
opinion.
Do you know?
There is a crossing guard on the Washington side, but not the Jefferson
But again,
side.
those are probably just like bus drivers, probably down in terms of the number of folks willing to
They
do
are.
that job.
And then they call off, and then it comes back to us as police officers to do. But we can only assign 2 people per quadrant, and that's only if we have them available and we're not busy. So it just depends. And so sometimes those will go unmanned. As it were. But there's lots of communities doing things. I know Wells County, their commissioners out there, they just installed some lighting on a crosswalk in front of an elementary school. And kudos to them for doing that, because it's so important to keep our kids safe. And money should not be an issue when it comes to our kids.
I was going to ask you, Sophia, if you happen to know a cost for just the paint or the lights, I mean, is there a big cost associated with this? Because I'm with you. It should be at every school across the country.
I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying this, but it's government, so I'm sure a lot of money is involved in these kinds of things.
You're not going to get in trouble in my book.
But does it matter? These are our kids.
Agreed, yeah.
These are our children. And if we can't keep them safe, and if we can't as taxpayers know that our money is being spent to at least try to keep them safe. I mean, this is one step we can do. The other is adults, is to be adults when we're behind the wheel and not be distracted, and especially around the school zones. Kids are just unpredictable, right? They're at that age, especially elementary kids. Yep. And they don't always look before they cross, and they'll drop something and run out to grab it. They don't think, and heck, we as adults, we don't think half the time. I mean, look, that's why I have a job, because people don't think.
We're walking across the street staring at our cell phones.
Right. And people get hit like that.
People get hit like that all the time.
And these are our kids. So what are we going to do as adults to keep them safe? And I think we need to do everything we can. If that means more lighting, then we need to push for more lighting and start with our council people. Start with our the city. I don't know, traffic engineering, I would imagine, who picks
that was going to be kind of my next question. Let's say we've got some community members who are really passionate about this, which I'll be honest, I mean, if that was my kid going to Black Hawk Middle, I would probably be one of those parents.
I would be incensed.
I would be, yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I actually live not too far from there. And that's why, to me, it keeps popping up as an issue, and it just scares the heck out of me because it's so close to where I live. And I've got a little girl who will eventually be going to school as well. But let's say there is someone just really passionate about this and wanted to do something about it. How do they even start that process?
Well, I would say, like I would for anything, I would start with your city council person.
Council, yeah.
Everybody has a district council person. They have at-large people, too. Mm-hmm. Start with them. Those are your elected government officials, and those are the ones who make things happen. And they work for us. They work for all of us. And
They're supposed to.
Yeah, well,
I'll say that.
okay, you can say that. But ultimately, this is their decisions because they are the ones that push for this funding. They're the ones who direct where the city dollars go.
When it comes to the cross guards, because you mentioned it's up to the Fort Wayne Police to potentially fill in the event that there isn't one present or available. Who oversees then the cross guards? The school, or does the Fort Wayne Police Department oversee the Fort Wayne cross guards?
So the crossing guards are our responsibility.
I guess I didn't realize that. I just assumed it was the schools.
No, it's ours, but we go. So if you want to apply, and you can apply, and I would encourage you, if you can't do both the AM and the PM, find someone who can do the PM and you can do the AM, and just switch it. It's like $12. I think it's like $50 per time, so it's $100 a day, I guess. If you do both, somewhere around there, it's $12.50 an hour. And then it's a couple hours or something. So maybe it's $50 for the day. I don't remember. But
still, there's going to be some kind of compensation.
There's a little compensation.
Yeah.
You know,
and you're
if
doing some good.
If you're a stay-at-home mom or dad and or retired, or you're in between jobs, just fill in for a bit, even if it's for a little bit. You'll go to the city website. It'll say crossing guard. You just fill out the application. They'll run a background check on you, and poof, you're in. We'll supply you with the stop sign, with the traffic vest, and that's overseen by our Northwest captain, Dan Ingram. And we're always in need. There's always spots that are unfilled, and we get requests almost daily because people call off.
Could hypothetically a school say we want to allocate funds for lights or for paint or a cross guard, or could a school make that call? I
don't think so, because it's they'd have to go through traffic engineering, because I think it's the way that it's set up and it has to be specific. I'm sure there's a lot of government details in there that I'm not aware of.
Well, I hear this from listeners a lot, at least on the radio program that I host here at the station during the week. Well, I talked to the school and I tried to call the administrator. I tried to call the superintendent, and again, because parents are just kind of grasping at solutions and who can I contact? That's why I asked you, if someone was really, enraged about this and wanted to do something about it. So contacting the school is probably not
I don't think
option.
The school has much in that. I think it's more of a traffic, and it's a governmental for the city or county if you live in the county, because the dollars for that is going to come from there. The school budgets are not for the traffic around the schools, so that's going to come from your local government. So I would start with, start with your PTO. I think that's what they're called now, parent-teacher organizations, and get together and talk about this, and then contact them as a representative of the PTO to whomever is the city council person for that area. And I would also encourage to contact the at-large people as well, because those are the people who
that's a good idea.
Will then work for you on behalf of you, because if you the city's not going to contact all 250 parents that are upset, but they will contact the city council person. You work through them, because that ultimately is their job. That's what they're there for.
Even in the case, though, of like this particular situation, and I don't know if you caught the video, and I can't even recall where it was at, but a cross guard, this video went viral this week, stepped in front of a child crossing as the vehicle didn't slow down and saved the child's life, and the cross guard actually got hit by the vehicle, which she was okay, had to go to the hospital and all that. But in that event, they had the lights, they had the blinking stop signs, they had the cross guard, they had the paint on the roads. It's like the school district, again, I don't remember where it was, but they were doing everything right. And yet it's obviously still an issue. So in your professional opinion, why is it still an issue? Does that go back to the driver?
Goes back to the driver each and every time. And we just got grant money from the Indiana Criminal Justice Institute, and we'll be running, again, the SAVE program, which is Stop Arm Violation Enforcement. So we'll follow school buses, we'll do school zone enforcement as well. But we cannot be everywhere every time. We cannot put someone at the school to just do traffic. This is incumbent on all of us to just do better. And we can, especially around the school areas, around school time. And summer's coming.
Yeah.
And you just can't be aware during school times. You just have to be aware all the time, because some kids aren't in school.
I feel like the theme or the topic really should have been personal responsibility today.
Yeah, that probably would have been a better topic, but then that would have been a myriad of things we could have talked about. But
it would have definitely been a longer than a 27-minute show.
Yeah.
Do we know what we're talking about? What's up next week? You knew I was going to ask you that,
I have no idea, because
We've come off such a heavy lift with constitutional carry. We have been knees deep in that. In fact, if you missed last week's episode, we answered all of your questions that came in, and there were a plethora of them regarding constitutional carry and what it means for the state of Indiana when the law goes effect here July 1 in Indiana. So if you missed that one, that's what Sophia and I have been knees deep in. If you missed that one, definitely check out the Unholstered podcast. You can download it anywhere you download a podcast, not just last week's episode, but all of the episodes. I think for me, Sophia, if we can, I know we've touched on it before, but I'd like to revisit fentanyl. It's
perfect.
Yeah. Well, it's popping up again. It's a huge story right now, at least across the nation, because fentanyl seizures across the southern border have now quadrupled in just the last year. Yeah. To me, that it's just an insane stat. And I get frustrated when people, in Fort Wayne, Indiana, for example, say, why should I care? Why do I need to care about it here in landlocked Indiana? And I would argue we're all border states to some degree because we're all dealing with fentanyl coming into our communities.
We're dealing with a lot.
And maybe you could provide some perspective for that, because I also hear from a lot of parents that, and they go, what's fentanyl?
Yeah.
Which that scares me a little bit, that you don't know what it is.
It does me too, because this has been at the forefront for so long, and I know we've talked about it several times. And you, as parents, you have to be informed. You have to know what's going on with your kids.
Especially as you said, we're about to enter the summer. Kids are going to be out of school. They're going to be bored. They're going to be looking for something to do.
And please don't ever think that it cannot be your kid. I don't care what socioeconomic or political affiliation you have. Do not ever think it's not your kid, because I'll tell you, your kids are doing things you don't know they're doing. I remember I was a teenager. I did things I wasn't supposed to do. And now there's just a lot more out there that
a lot more
is
access
potentially,
to those things too.
Harmful and can kill your children. Back then when I was a kid, there's just more of it here.
Well, I think we found a topic for next week.
All right.
Your town, your team, your topics. This is Unholstered.
Thanks for listening to Unholstered. Be sure to subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen. And remember, you can listen every Saturday morning at 10:30 on WOWO 1190 and 107.5 FM.
Podcasts by Federated Media.